Okay, welcome to our our defining Tanya share up to Ois Kaf. Last week we discussed Kavanas Mitzvah, and I was just saying that the Kavanas Mitzvah in Tanya is referring to what motivates the mitzvah, the energy that motivates the mitzvah, and it's amongst it's the heart those three prakim in Tanya, which is chapters 38, 39, 40. Hi Henry. 38, 39, 40 are they're the most difficult chapters in Tanya. There's like a couple of others like 33 and like 42 and 3. There's some other very difficult and 23, but in my opinion, those three chapters, 38, 39, 40, are the most difficult chapters in Tanya, and they are dealing with Kavanas and Mitzvah. They are dealing with the inyan of the energy that motivates the mitzvah. Okay, so then we have Kamayim Panim Laponim, but we spoke about that in Avos Hashem. That's a type of love, so that's just a reference to over there. So we're going to explain Bezrat Hashem Kas very quickly, um, because then I want to get to LAMED, which is lave. And there's a really special share that I've given many times. I will give again on the 5 stages of the heart. That is very helpful and really enlightening. Okay, so Kas. Kas, according to Tanya, is not an emotion. So what is it if it's not an emotion?
Temporary state.
It's a it's a pleasure. Yeah. Kas is a pleasure, not an emotion. And according to Tanya, again, it depends how you define emotion, but the way I've understood it, according to Tanya, it's not an emotion. Emotions are just avenura, and kas is a pleasure. Just like depression and laziness is also not an emotion in Tanya. It's also a pleasure, and frivolousness and gaiva. These are pleasures, not emotions. Anyway, so kas is a pleasure. And what is its pleasure? Okay, what is the pleasure? And the pleasure, the way that I understand what kas is, the ego builds a wall around you. You could call it your malchus in a sense. Gaius lavesh. It's like a conceptual wall around you that delineates you and solidifies you. Anger happens when someone or something somehow dents or breaches that wall. Now, obviously, if someone says something, they're rude to you or they do something bad to you, or then they've dented your honor, that's obviously gonna bring out an angry response. But even things like if you get angry over the in the inequality of wealth, or you get angry at the fact that some people are so lazy, not that they've done anything to you, that they just don't do anything, yeah, that they just sit there all day and whatever, yeah. You're actually what the anger is a response to the fact that your identity is getting broken a bit. Why? Because if you get very upset by a person who sits there and wastes his life, you've identified with the idea of being productive and effective, etc. And they're very, whatever they are, that, so to speak, offends you. That is a breach. So, what part of your wall is the concept of being efficient, effective, and productive? And they're the opposite. That makes you angry. Yeah. Also, if you wanted to go, you wanted to go camping tomorrow, and then Hashem decides it's going to rain. Yeah, that makes you angry, meaning you got that wall around you, your identity got breached. So what does anger do? anger, your anger at X turns that X into an enemy. Okay. And conceptually, what that means is you put a wall around your enemy. That's what an enemy is. An enemy is somebody that you put in prison. An enemy is somebody that you build a wall around. You don't want to be near them. You don't want anything to do with them. You want them isolated and away from you. Yeah, that's what happens to our enemies. Chaos is the mechanism that we use to replenish our broken wall. We put the other person, we block in the other person with the wall, and then we, so to speak, use their wall that we built around them to fill our wall. That's the mechanism of cast, I understand it. So it's considered a pleasure because that is a pleasure to have that wall reinforced. Yeah, just like when somebody pats you on the back and says, wow, you're amazing. Yeah, that makes that wall stronger and taller and deeper and thicker, etc. Yeah, that's a pleasure. So too, when when um when we turn X into an enemy, whether or not it's the person at the corner store, whether or not it's the guy who cut us up in the street, whether or not it's the inequality of wealth or the fact that people can't get their act together, whatever it is, whatever you're turning into an enemy, yeah, that is to replenish the breakage in the wall that you've experienced. That is what anger is, according to I understand it. Is that clear? Pretty amazing, yeah? Yeah, that is amazing. It is amazing. Okay, Baruch Shem. So that is Kas, our regular Achas. Lave. Anybody remembers the five stages of the heart that we've discussed in the past? That'll be a big surprise. Okay. It goes Timtum Aleve, Shviras Aleve, Meriras Aleve, Psichas Aleve, and Tuv Levav. And now this shear is a standalone shear. I call it the five stages of the heart. It's not very inventive, but it's uh, it's a shear that I've given many times, and is really important. It really shows you the emotional progression of how our hearts work. Is really deep, and it's culled from Sefer Tanya exclusively, but from many different locations in Sefer Tanya. It's not just he doesn't just explain Timothy Shurzle, Mirzle, Psichselev, and Tivlevav in like one place. It's spread out over the place. A lot of it is from the late 20s, like Kaf Hay, Kaf Tess, Lamed, etc. Okay, so Timtum Alev, and it actually ties in very much with cast, like we were talking about. Timtum Alev is the lowest level of the heart, yeah? It is the level of the heart where it's mutumtam. It's atum. It's blocked, clogged. Timtum means the clogged heart, but it's also referring to the ossification of the heart, which means the hardening of the heart, the callousing of the heart. And that doesn't mean like you got a callous heart that you're insensitive. It does mean that, but it's more referring to the walls of the heart actually harden. And that is just like exactly what we were just speaking about. It's an egoic um it's an egoic I'm thinking the word fetish. That's not the right word though. It's it's the it's the MO of the ego. See, the ego wants one thing to be. And once you already are, yeah, you got your basic survival taken care of, then the ego is just about making that being bigger, stronger, better, v'chule, yeah? So the ego just wants to be. And what that means, like we just said, is this idea of building walls around you. That's the idea of walls. Walls preserve you. Walls preserve you. And see the ego, you can imagine an egocentric, uh, an egoic person is the opposite of vulnerable. You can't penetrate an egoic person. They're unpenetrable. Why? Because they have completely kind of blocked themselves in with these massive, strong, fortified walls. That is ego. Ego does that. Ego solidifies itself, and that's always conceptually this idea of this conceptual wall that we put around ourselves. Yeah, Michael.
There's a rabbi that told a story of a wealthy man he knows that built a house on the ocean, right on the beach. And he said that he heard he was doing construction, taking down the perimeter wall and putting up a new wall. He says, "Why are you doing this?" He says, "Well, because the original wall I put up was only rated to last 200 years. The new wall I'm putting up is rated to last 400 years." The man's 75 years old. 200 years, 400 years, what difference does it make? He wanted to solidify his walls.
Wait, that's a real, where did you hear that? What,
I heard this like 3, 4 years ago, so I have to look it up. But this is
like
it was from the East Coast.
some
It
nut
was like it was like
in the East
a,
Coast.
a, a from wealthy guy on the East Coast, on the wherever over there,
Yeah.
was building a mansion.
So that's yeah. So it's a very important idea, this idea of the walls. That's the Inyan of the Chomot of Yerushalayim. That is the Malchus Shemayim. See, like we build egoic walls around ourselves. Hashem has a wall around himself. That's called Malchus Shemayim. That's called Geus Lavesh. Yeah, that's the gaiva that he wears, so to speak. So his ego, yeah, Kaviochel, is his Malchus. To use the word ego for the Boisham is probably not the right word, but it's out the moshel. Remember, we're always the moshel. He's the nimshal. So our ego is the nimshal is his malchus, meaning his misgeret, his organization that, so to speak, surrounds him, that he wears. Yes, whenever we talk about walls and the walls of Yerushalayim and the breaking of the walls of Yerushalayim, which is Shiras B'Tammuz, that's always meramis to the inyan of the Malchus Shemayim having cracks in it. And who is in charge of Malchus Shemayim? You. And I said this to a guy in Shimon Tzaddik a few weeks ago. He was and I, I said this already. Michael, you're smiling. Oh, you don't know. So he's a nice, simple Sephardi Jew. Um, and he looks at me and he's talking whatever. He just sits there all day. Yeah, doesn't do anything. And he said to me, yeah, a kol b'dei shemayim, ma ani achol la'asot. What am I able to do? And I look at him. I said, you know what the Bosh I'm saying? He's like a kol b'dei aretz. Ma ani achol la'asot. What can I do? The Boina Shloim saying to us exactly, Eliezer, that's the whole point. Is you get a lot of people who say, "Man, what can I do?" And the Boina Shloim say, "Man, I gave the whole thing over to you. Stop sitting around and fix this place." B'ezras Hashem, exactly. Just do it. That's the point. Just do it. Revolution time, Baal Shem style. Yes. Okay. So so the this egoic wall around us, this hard wall around the heart, yeah, which is called Timtum Alev. That is you're just a graphic in the game. You're an egoic blip in the program in that stage. And the Rebbe explains that there's two issues, two big kind of expressions of the Timtum Alev, which is number one, you can't daven properly. And number two, you're not makadesh yourself b'mutalach. You can't um what's the word? You can't how do you say makadesh yourself b'mutalach? you can't be involved in the permissible pleasures properly in moderation. You're picking out on good kosher food, or you're with your wife too much, whatever the type it is, yeah. That's it. You can't be Makadisha. Why? Because that is exactly the ego. That's the ego can't daven, yeah, because davening is hachna and hoidah, and the ego can't do that. And the ego wants pleasure as well. So the ego, because that's one of the most strong, having pleasure is one of the ultimate ways of solidifying the wall. Just as an interesting point, there's a famous Gemara in Yuma that says the reason why the base Bias Rishon was destroyed and Bias Sheni was destroyed, yeah. Bias Rishon, it says there was Gilirayas Avodah Zarah and Shrichas Damim, and but there was a level of Amunah. We were Marmin, we believed in Hashem, so to speak. By Bias Sheni, yeah, there was Torah, mitzvahs, and Gemilas Chasadim, but sinas chinam. And then there's a big machlokes, which one was worse? And the maskana is that the second one was worse because it's been for so long, and the first one was only for 80 years. Yeah, but this is a very important diuk to make from the Gemara. Yeah? It says that there was Torah, mitzvahs, and gemilas chasadim with sinas chinam. What's with tefillah? There was not. They didn't say there was tefillah because there can't be tefillah and sinas chinam. There can't be. If there's real tefillah, then sinas chinam will evaporate. There won't be sinas chinam. So there was Torah, there was mitzvahs, there was even gemilas chasadim, but it was all mixed up with sinas chinam, uchmanas. So so tefillah is, I mean, real tefillah. I'm not even talking about going out to the forest and screaming out to Hashem. I'm talking about Shachris, Psuk de Zimra, Bichas Kriya Shema, with Kavana. I'm sure the guys in Bais Sheni were davening Shachris, yeah, but not. It wasn't tefillah. Tefillah means you invest in Shachris the the investment that it obviously demands, that it's obviously worthy of. Yeah. And if you do that, then you will see the sinas chinam, which is basically the ugliest manifestation of your lower self, just kind of start to fall into the background, and eventually it will dissolve completely, Mizrat Hashem. So Timtum Alev is the clogged heart, yeah. It's an egoic state of in impenetrability. How would you say that? Impenetrability. Yeah. Nothing moves you. Nothing moves you. So what's the next stage? If nothing moves you, then how do you move out of that? Yeah, the next stage is called Shvir Salev. Shvir Salev is the experience of having your identity broken. I'm going to speed up a little bit because I want to try and get through the whole thing. So each of these things as well we could give a shir in anyway. But Shvir Salev means you are, the way I understand it, you're identified with X. Yeah, that's your identity. Yeah, Tottenham Hotspurs, the football club, is your identity, Rahmanas. And they lose a game. Yeah, you feel like you wanna, you know, you want to end it all. You want to sit on the floor and cry. Yeah, that is the person's identity has been broken. That is a level of Shir Salev. Lahavdil Elef Alver Lafim Havdalas would be the experience, Rahmanas, of a child losing their parent. Yeah. Or a child, their parents divorcing when they're, in their, young, in their earlier years. Yeah, where their whole identity was wrapped up in their parents, and all of a sudden their parents, that marriage dissolves and they're broken. Yeah, or for example, the guy that I met, the guy that I was speaking to in New York, who was this hotshot real estate realtor, and he made some bad deals, and I mean, he was his whole identity was that of a hotshot realtor. How to say it? Realtor. Yeah, whatever. Estate agent guy. And he did some stupid things, and he didn't feel that he was that anymore. That's Shvir Salev. It is literally the most unpleasant place to be. It's it's a very, very vulnerable, I mean, to say vulnerable, that is the definition of vulnerable. Vulnerable means you're in Shvira. Vulnerable means your heart has been broken, which means your identity, those walls have been smashed down. And now you feel vulnerable and bare and 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 that's Pasha terrifying. But it's an incredibly healthy place to be because now you can break free of this ego wall that's been around you and you can become what you need to become as opposed to continue being what you've always been. That is what Shreya Saleh provides you with the opportunity to do. Shreya Saleh is the opportunity now to become what you need to become. It is the moshel in the physical world is the very subtle clipper that exists over like for example an apple seed, yeah, you have an apple seed is brown, yeah, like browny black, and if you use your nail you can kind of like peel it open and you see inside the white bit, yeah. So when they talk about the idea of the seed rotting in the ground and then it grows, the seed doesn't rot at all. The black clipper of the seed rots and then the seed can grow forth, can sprout forth. That is mamash shvir salev. Imagine how delicate that seed is when that brown shell kind of dissolves. That seed would feel naked and so vulnerable. Yeah, but okay, but that is essential for growth. To grow, it's essential that the walls of that these this egoic fortress is brought down. Okay, if somebody goes to a complete shvira, yeah, they will commit suicide. Meaning, if a person's identity is 100%, yeah, his ability to make lots of money and he makes some bad deals and he decides that he doesn't have that ability to make a lot of money, yeah, 100%, he will end his life. And I told you that story of this guy in New York who was close to suicide, yeah, but he didn't. And the reason was because he had a nice family and he was like 80% identified with his ability to make money. And that 20% of his identity, which was with his wife and kids, kept him alive, Baruch Hashem. Yeah. Um, so that's Shvir Salev. So Timtum Alev
But
is this, yeah.
sorry, just quick question. Does all growth have to go through Shira Salev, or can you have growth not through Shira Salev?
Well, it depends. If your egoic wall is very, very soft, very flimsy, yeah, which is hopefully what it is, yeah, then you won't, or the sphere will be very what's the word? Untraumatic. Your growth will be available. The goal, I mean, the goal is to not have an egoic wall, or to at least, you know, be able to step out of it whenever you need to. Yeah. But yeah, as you build up the courage and you practice the fighting of the ego, yeah, and the becoming aware of the ego, growth becomes easier and easier. And someone will say to you, your wife will turn around to you and she'll say, something like, Shmuel, the way you were, that first thing you said in the shit, this is what happened last night. Yeah, I said something in the shit, and she said like, I think it was nothing. And she was like, it was very like Guyver Dick of you. That was very, that was very, very cocky. And if your ego wall is in it full force, you'll be like, what are you talking about? Look at you and how you set an hand and blah 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 blah. Yeah. Whereas if your ego wall is very flimsy, you'll go, yeah, I hear that. Okay, I'll try and work that out. Thank you. So it doesn't have to be traumatic, but there was probably a stage when it was very traumatic. But it's madrigas and madrigas. Okay, so Timtum Alev is the egoic frozen experience where you're just not available. You're not available to anything. You're just in your fortress protecting yourself. Shviras Alev, you could bring it on yourself if you're brave enough and clever enough. Usually your kids and wife bring it on you. Yeah, that's what they're. That's I think that's their when they come down from Shemaim. That's their primary job is they sign the Shvira Salev. Yeah, we'll help that. We'll help with him. Don't worry, we'll bring him to Shvira. Alti Doug. Yeah, that's their primary job. So if you just play the rule, if you play the game and just manage to bite your tongue, then Shvira Salev experiences will be very frequent. You'll be Zoichet them all the time. Yeah, but then there's big Shvira Salev things like tragedy strikes, loss of a loved one, the sudden loss of a loved one, loss of possessions, a health issue and a sudden health issue. All of these things are Shvir Salev Dick. Yeah. Okay. So with Shvir Salev, once you're in this vulnerable, um, guardless state, there's one of two options. Literally one of two options. You can either revert back to Timtum, which is probably the more obvious, more default option, the less energy option, is you go to this stage of Shvira, you feel extremely vulnerable. You could potentially blossom or sprout into a completely new person, but instead you revert back to exactly how you were and you climb back into that fortress and you rebuild the walls again. That's very common. Or you can move into what's called Marira Salave. That's the next stage. Marira Salave is what they translate as bitterness of lave. You could call it a Avelus. Now, Avelus, everyone knows, you ever seen somebody in Avelus, they are alive. Their heart is pumping. Like sometimes it can be scary how alive they are. Yeah, but it hurts. It's not like Simcha, which is called Psych Slave, or it's also called Simcha. Simcha, Psych Slave, same thing. That uh, Simcha is the heart is alive, but from the right side, it feels geschmuck. Yeah. Marira Slave is the heart is alive, but it's from the left side. It's the stage after Shir Slave, and it's the saying, it's when you grit your hands, when you clench your fists and you grit your teeth and you say, enough. This has to change. I I I can't go on like this any longer. I have to change. That's Maria Slave. It's an energy. That's why Tisha B'Av is such an opportune time to grow because you're alive with Gevura Salev, with Maria Salev. Yeah. And if you're Zoicha to that, if from Shvira you are Zoicha to Merira as opposed to falling back to Timtum, yeah, then it's basically, the way I understand it, it's kind of like a signed deal that you will move into Psichas Alev. Psichas Alev, which is also called Simcha, is the free flowing emotion, which feels very good. It feels great. It is it's Psich Salev. It's the opposite of Tintamalev. You're growing, you're moving, you're available. You're available to people. You're available to yourself. And you're full of life. The heart is pumping. In fact, you can't have emotions without, well, Avelus is, I'm not quite sure how that works. That's quite complicated. I don't quite understand it. But by Psich Salev, yeah, or Simcha is the prerequisite for Ava and Yira. Meaning Ava and Yira can only exist in a Leiv Patuach. That's the very definition of an open heart. Is it's open to what? It's open to Ava and Yira, and those are the energies that allow you to move. That's why it's called in English emotion. Motion from Lashon moving. Everyone's clear so far? It's really a tight, clean system. It's very beautiful how it works. So we've got Timtum Alev, and this is my favorite part, which is called Tuv Levov. Yeah, but we've got Timtum Alev, which is this egoic, what's the word? Defensive position. This egoic defensive place where you can't daven and you can't be mekadosh yourself with what's mutter to you. You're indulging in all the pleasures of the world, and this is a very common. Maybe you could even argue, and like the Tanya says it. It says itim koroivim, whatever, or prakim koroivim. It's very common that we are in this state. It could even maybe be argued that it's kind of our default. The Benoni's default state is Timtum Alev. So first there's Timtum Alev, which is, well, you need to begin. So then there's Shviras Alev, whether you induce it yourself, whether your wife or kids induce it, whether God himself induces it. Yeah. However it happens, that means your identity gets broken, and that's like the coming down of the walls of the heart. Yeah, that then now you're in the position where you either revert back and re-erect the walls that just got destroyed by the Shvira, or you are zoicha to move forward into Meruas Alev, which is the lave again, like I said, is alive, but it hurts. It's like that determination to move forward, and that then leads Bezrat Hashem to Psichas Alev, where you are now available mamash to emotion. It's not a determination for emotion; it's mamash emotion. But like I said, I'm not sure if that's quite true. I don't know how that works in Maria Alev exactly. So Zot Hashem will find that out one day. But Psich Alev is the heart is mamash available to emotion, and that is those are the first words of the Tanya, no? What are the first words of the Tanya? He says if you're gonna think about all your avayas, you're gonna think you're a big Russia, then he says, how can you be over Hashem? He says, V'o tia Rash b'fnei atzmacha. V'gam im yeh b'einav karasha, if you think of yourself as a Russia, your levavoy, your heart's going to feel raw. Via Eitzev, v'lo yachol la'avoid Hashem b'simcha v'tuv levav, and you won't be able to serve Hashem b'simcha v'tuv levav. Meaning, if you're not b'simcha, there is no avodas Hashem. Avodas Hashem is the prerequisite sicha. Simcha is a prerequisite for avodas Hashem. Okay, everyone's clear on that? Those four levels. Yes, we've got Timtum Alev, Shur Alev, Miras Alev, and Psich Alev. And this is mamash mind blowing. The final stage is called Tuv Levav. Anybody knows a little bit of Dikduk? There's a grammarian in the house. Anybody understand what's the difference between Timtum Alev, Miras Alev, Shur Alev, Psich Alev, and Tuv Levav grammatically? They divide into the first four. I can't do it with my fingers. You got the first four, and then you've got Tuv Levav. It's a completely different grammatical construct, and it's amazing how Chazal hide these meanings in these amazing little grammatical anomalies. Psichas Alev, Leiv, even though it is like Psichas Maris is also a noun, but the heart is a noun. The heart is a noun, and it is another noun, but it's working as an adjective to describe the noun. So it's a blocked heart, it's a broken heart, it's a bitter heart, it's an open heart. The heart is, yeah, broken, bitter, open, blocked, yeah. Tuv Levav, the heart becomes the adjective. That's what it means, Tuv Levav. Tuv is not toiv. Yeah, you can't when you say kol, a lot of Balachuva says they can kol tov. It's really grammatically it should be kol tuv, all the best, meaning the good is all of the good, not it was a good day. Good can be a noun and an adjective. So a good day is an adjective. It's the day is the noun, and the good modifies the day as opposed to it's a good day as opposed to it's a bad day. Yeah. But good can also be a noun. It was it was good. It was for the good. Yeah. All of the good. So that's what happens in the final stage of the heart. It's tuv levav. The goodness is the noun, and it's the heart becomes an adjective. So it's like calling it like hearty good. Like, the good is hearty. You can't say it in English. Yeah. So what? Okay, cute, lovely. So what? What is that? What is that teaching us? Well, think of it like conceptually how it must look when you kind of turn it into an image, when you give it some visuals, yeah? You can think of it as like, see, tuv levav is you've got, oh, sorry, that psichas lev is you've got the heart, and then conceptually, the adjective kind of enclothes the noun and dresses up the noun. Yeah. The adjective is toffel to the noun. It describes the noun. So you've got the noun, again, conceptually, visually, you've got the noun, and you enclose it in. You've got the heart is the noun, and you enclose that in openness, in blocked, in blockedness, in bitterness, in brokenness, etc. Yeah? So this is what we're doing here: is we're taking good and we're enclosing it in the heart. We're modifying good by a heart. The final stage of the heart is called Chala Libi B'Kirbi. My heart is empty in me. What's it full of? Toiv. That's the Madrega of the Tzaddik, where his heart has become godly, meaning the essence of his heart is godly, which is Toiv or Tuv, and all his heart is doing is describing that goodness, meaning his heart has become like the the walls of God. So it's the perfect finale of this whole process because the beginning of the process is, yeah, the heart has ossified itself. It's hard, yeah, timtum alev. The final stage of the heart is that the heart has become the definition of God. It's the heart is defining the tuv, the goodness. That means that you have been replaced, the essence of who you are has been replaced with God, with godliness, however you want to say it. There's not really the words in English aren't so good for this. But the essence of the heart has become switched over to the Rabboni Shalom. And now your heart is that gives him his definition, so to speak. That's chelik Elokai Mimal. It's a piece of God. Well, what's the bit that defines that? Because a chelik needs to be defined. Well, you're the definition. God is the essence, and you're the definition, as opposed to an egoic person who he's the essence, and then whatever defines him. But he's the essence in the final state of the heart, the heart is good, meaning the heart has become godly, and we are just, so to speak, defining it and giving it some kiyum in this world. Okay, that is lave, the way that I understand it and I've learned from my Rebbe. And
Well,
next,
question on that.
yeah, for sure.
Is that plural as well? Levav?
Is
Is
that
that
for
like
who?
both? Is it plural? Plural, like both hearts, levav.
No, well, they drush it you could drush it like that, like they drush in Shema, b'chol levavacha. They drush the two bases as b'chol shnei yitzarecha with your two with the two yitzers, but it doesn't mean it's not levavois. Like chayvus halevavois means duties of the hearts. It's like no, so no chayvus halevavois. How would that work? Levavois. No, that's all. No, that's also the Inyan of lave. So yeah, that actually proves it perfect. That is the adjective of heart. It's levavois because it's chovot. Chovot, which if it was chov, it would be chov levav, but it's chovus halavavus. So it doesn't. The two bases don't make it plural. No,
Okay.
but good question. Cool question. It's good. Okay, so next week, B'ezrat Hashem, we will talk about Levush and Levushim. That's the next level of Lamed. That's also a big share, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, everyone should be bench, B'ezrat Hashem. Like,
Yashikor.
my pleasure.